to make this as authentic as possible. And I've been eyeballing these books for quite some time. They're kind of expensive. And there's 4 books in the series. And I have 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 got lost in the mail somewhere. And that's the most expensive one. But I'm in the process of figuring that out now. So it might be a while till I pick that one up. But so what I liked about, there's a lot of information in here, and a lot of it's about Enfield style cartridges for the rifles. There is some pistol cartridge information in it, and the thing I was kind of excited about was there's like a form here that shows the different types of paper that was used in the different cartridges. And so it's basically paper for laboratory use. And the first one here is pistol cartridges, and it says very thin, near tissue paper, strong, smooth, and uniform. And it gives a size here, 13 by 16.5, and weight per ream is 6 pounds, and then proof weight to be borne by a strip 4 inches wide is 20 pounds. So I guess that's a test. So I may down the road try to make like a jig or a measuring device up and kind of see where and sort of replicate that test down the road. But for now, I'm mostly concerned about with the weight per ream and the size. I can determine the weight of the paper that they used. So to do that, I have a math sheet here, and so I'm going to use the measurement of GSM. It's grams per square meter, and that's the metric measuring system for measuring paper. I think it's easier to use and calculate out. So 1 pound here is equal to 453.5 grams. So 6 pounds will be 2,721.5 grams. And so it's 13 by 16.5 at 6 pounds per ream. And then, so 13 times 25.4 gives me the millimeters in length. So that's 330 millimeters by, and then a 16.5 by times 25.4 gives me 419.1. So that's the length and width of the paper in millimeters. So to get the area of it, you just multiply them two together and you get 138,386 millimeters squared. And so there is 1,000,000 millimeters in a meter. Kind of a tongue twister. And so you divide that by the 138,000 square millimeters of the sheet, and you get 7.22 sheets per square meter. So per square meters, there's about 7.2 of these sheets. These sheets on the chart will fit into the square meter. And so there's 500 sheets in a ream. So I take the 6 pounds here and I divide that by 500, and I get 5.44 grams per sheet. And so take that number and multiply that by 7.22, which is the number of sheets per square meter. That comes out to about 39.3 grams per square meter. And so what I also did was, just in case they put 500 sheets together and just put it on a scale and it kind of needles a little bit more or less than 6 pounds, they just call it 6 pounds. I did another, I took these numbers and calculated with a different weight. So say if it was a little over 6 pounds, at 6.2 pounds, the weight of the GSM of the paper would still be 40. And at 5.8 pounds, it would be about 38 GSM. So it's not that much difference in weight. I mean, GSM for each sheet of paper. So I'm just going to go with about 40 GSM. That's kind of a round number. And so I use that number, and I'm going to use it to select the paper I want for it. And so these are the different papers that I'm using for my cartridges. I like to experiment with different papers all the time, so I'm always on the search for, you know, something nicer or better. You never know. So these are basically the different papers I'm using at the moment, and some aren't. Now this is just for example. So this is Eaton resume paper. It's 25% cotton, and so this is a really heavy paper. You wouldn't use this for a cartridge, but this is just for an example of, you know, the different weights of paper. And on the box here, it's on the box it said 90 GSM at 24 pounds. And so when I weigh it, I only get 71 GSM. So I don't know where they get the 90 at. I have no idea. It seems like none of those, the numbers on the box do not match the actual weight. Yeah, so that's 71 there. And so this is the Ben Pang 100% rag paper, and on the cover it had 51 GSM at 3.5 pounds, and so when I weigh it I get about 54 GSM out of that. So if I fold this up here, figure out how, let's see here, fold it any old way. Yeah, so that's 54.5. Yeah, so this is another type of paper I have here. This is the one I had I was nitrating in a video, 1 or 2 videos ago. And it's 100% cotton paper, and on the box it said 36 GSM. But the weight measured here is 44, so, you know, that's a little bit off. So that's 44. And then, so I got coffee filter here. This is cheap, no brand, like dollar store stuff. And so this measures about 28 GSM. And so these sheets are 100 by 100. So basically all I got to do is move the decimal point to get so that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just measuring this and then moving the decimal point to get the grams per square meter. So this is a Walmart brand coffee filter. This is the natural brand, and that is about 26 GSM. And this is the curling papers for hair curlers, and it wasn't big enough to do 100 by 100 square, so I did a 50 by 50, and it comes out to 0.35. And then I multiplied that by 4 because there's four of them in here, so that comes out to about 14 GSM. So the closest one to this 39 or 40 would be this G Natural cotton paper. And so there's another part in the book here. The other reason I'm going to go with this one is because it's not a paper based, it's not a wood pulp based paper. And so the reason for that is because in the book here there is a reference. There is a correspondence from one of the laboratories. Let's see if I can find it. So on page 76 here of part 4 at the bottom here, there's a communication on May 7th from Mallet. Gave Georges his observations about the current laboratory and cartridge paper situation. So down here at the very bottom paragraph. It says the material required for the strongest and best cartridge paper, namely manila fiber, is scarcely to be had at all in the Confederacy. But even much inferior materials are exceedingly scarce. It would not be well to procure a general order addressed to all quartermasters at all posts in the field, requiring them to collect and save as far as possible rags of all kinds, fit for paper, old ropes, etc. Large quantities of such materials are lost in the field alone for want of a little attention to their preservation, and opportunities might often be found for sending them back, if preserved, to points where they could be made available. If some steps be not taken with regards to this matter, I fear that the demands of the government for paper will before long prove a source of much embarrassment. So that tells me that the paper is going to be rag based or linen based, and like manila was like manila ropes. So paper back then was not really made out of wood pulp. And I made a post a while back to a link on paper technology in the mid 1800s, and so the equipment to process wood pulp was not available until the late 1860s, or like 70. So most paper was going to be rag based back in at that time period. So that's the other reason I'm going to go with this this cotton paper here. And so the next step is to use the pattern to cut the paper and then assemble the cartridge. This is printer paper. Brown coffee filter. This is the resume paper. This is the thin fang paper. This is the white coffee filter. Alright, this is the G Natural cotton paper. Magician's flash paper. It's an ordinary brown lunch bag. This is rice paper. Nope, that didn't hold. Paper from dinner with Dad. I think that holds up pretty good.